Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the lore of League of Legends. As most of you probably know by now, the lore of League of Legends has been practically disemboweled by Riot. In other words, the League as we know it never existed. No summoners, and no League. Until such time as Riot decides to implement the new lore they are planning, I've decided to redo a number of videos, specifically the original ones. Now, whilst I understand that the lore we know is no longer canon, I like to think that having it remain in some way will allow us to remember the story that we all know and love. So without further ado, I present to you the audio-fixed version of the lore of League of Legends. What is going on in LoL? Enjoy. Valoran. A continent on the world of Runeterra, home to the great organisation that people know of as the League of Legends. Until recently, however, the continent was in grave danger. Ever since the peoples of the continent gathered into their various tribes, conflicts emerged between them. One tribe could not stand the views of another, and thus they began a war, and as with any war, many people lost their lives, just to prove who was right. As time passed, so the world changed. The tribes evolved into nations, small villages into powerful cities, and simple watchtowers transformed into keeps filled to the brim with weapons of all kinds. The wars, however, never changed. Magic was always the weapon of choice for every side that could wield it, a powerful force that could not only be unleashed directly upon their enemies, but also enchant the equipment of their own troops, making them more likely to survive a battle. The reckless use of magic over time has slowly led to the ongoing corruption of the land. Its balance has been broken, and with every great conflict that became later known as the Rune Wars, the world itself was constantly changing. At first, these changes had not been visible and ignored by most. Even the most powerful of mages, the summoners, chose to ignore them. As the conflicts continued, however, Valoran began visibly changing. Violent earthquakes, storms of wild energy, and unpredictable weather, life on Valoran became difficult, almost impossible for many. In response to those events, the magicians of the continent gathered to study the current state of Runeterra. After weeks of research and studies, they came to the conclusion that the conflicts had to be stopped, as another rune war could literally split the continent in half. At first, they appealed to the 4 city-states to stop the wars, but it soon became clear to them that this plan would not succeed. No matter how hard they tried, it was impossible to achieve, not even with the help of magic. So another solution had to be created in response. Since the conflicts could not be stopped, the summoners were forced to find another way to resolve them. An organisation was created that would oversee the orderly resolution of political conflicts, and they called it the League of Legends. It would allow the city-states to resolve their conflicts by doing battle on magically created arenas known as the Fields of Justice. Teams of 5 were chosen from representatives of the city-states or any other nation that supported its ideas, were to face off against one another in battles to destroy the enemy's nexus and prove their power. It soon became clear that not every city-state would agree to those rules at first. But it was not important. The highest priority was to get the 2 biggest forces on the continent to agree to the rules set by the League. Demacia, the radiant example of justice and good, and the dire power-hungry city-state of Noxus. Demacia is a human city-state off the western coast of Valoran. It shines as a bright paragon of virtue amongst all other city-states. Its people are driven by the common goal of spreading justice across all of Valoran, through all the city-states on the continent. They are a tough and forgiving people who feel that malice and selfishness is a terrible disease that should be purged from the face of the world. Demacia is ruled by a monarch who is supported by a council of nobles. He is a grand political leader and public speaker, but there are many other duties that the king has. As the head of the military, he is often found leading the army himself, and is also meant to be an example for every single one of his citizens, and his every move is harshly judged. Life for the nobles of Demacia is not easy either. In other city-states they would be accepted just as they are, because the job of a nobleman is to stay a nobleman. The Demacians, however, understand this sentence differently. The job of a nobleman is to be an example to those underneath his status. He's meant to be a teacher to them all. There are many laws in Demacia that are much harsher than for anyone else. With the strict mindset common amongst the citizens of Demacia, it does not come as a surprise that the Demacian military is one of the best disciplined military forces that Valorant has ever seen. For the longest time, it used to be the only force capable of stopping the armies of Noxus on their march of destruction. For the people of Demacia, serving in the military is a great honour, and every citizen has to serve in the military for at least 3 years. Many of them end up deciding to stay longer, perfecting their own mind and body, and are taught how to oppose one's fears. A true soldier of Demacia can never flee, surrender, or make excuse, and is always ready to fight for great justice. Despite what the Demacians think of themselves, life in the city-state is no utopia. It's a tough place where draconian measures are taken in order to ensure that everyone lives by the moral code of the city-state. Crime is punished harshly, yet fairly. There's no place for weakness or regret. Every citizen of Demacia is proud of their land and willing to give their lives for their nation and their king. Noxus in many ways is an antithesis to Demacia. Those who aren't strong physically or mentally are to acquire strength by any means, regardless of the consequences. Nobody cares for the weak. If you can't take care of yourself, no one will do it for you. You can fight to create yourself a better life, or you can just accept your current place and die as the trash that you are in the minds of Noxians. The city-state strongly supports the thought that only the strong can survive. Benevolence and compassion are signs of weakness that no one should ever show, since it's simply a waste of time. There is only strength, and it's the only measure that you will be judged with. Prove yourself strong and useful, and you may end up accepted as part of a Noxian society. Even though most Noxians are decidedly xenophobic, and will not simply accept non-humans amongst them, there are exceptions. Due to strength, there are known cases of non-human creatures that are proven to be useful enough, or just feared enough, to be accepted into Noxus. Noxus used to be ruled by a monarchy, but its king had been slain and succeeded by the Noxian High Command, a political organisation that serves not only as the ruling body, but also head of the state's military forces. There's no separation between the two, and for countless years its eternally young leader, General Borum Darkwell, had ruled Noxus. When he exceeded his average lifespan, rumours began to spread that he was in fact being kept alive by the use of necromantic magic. That was not important, however. His hunger for power and conquest had driven Noxus to be a dangerous threat to every nation that surrounded it, and that position was beneficial for the future of the city-state. The Grand General was eventually assassinated in recent years, and the power struggle between successors was long and difficult. So much so that fights began between the supporters of candidates. In the end, however, the mysterious political figure known as Jericho Swain seized control of the High Command, and with the help of his close ally General Darius, no one was sure of the change to follow, and they weren't worried about the well-being of the city-state. The city of Noxus is just like its inhabitants, dark and sinister, built into a granite mountain partially hidden underground. It is surrounded by a moat carved into the tough stone filled with numerous chemical brews and liquids. The main section of the city is surrounded by slums made of poorhouses built by those who are too weak or too poor to support themselves within the walls of Noxus, and the government provides no support for those less fortunate. And yet, like every single citizen of the city-state, they are required to serve in the military for at least 6 years, after which they are considered to be active reservists until old age. Any of these citizens can be called to arms at will whenever the High Command considers it necessary. There are, however, many benefits to being in active service in the military, and it is not uncommon for citizens of Noxus to serve at least 10 to 15 years in the army. It always needs more men, even now, in this time of relative peace. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have for you this time around. I hope you enjoyed it. Do let me know your thoughts on the current state of the lore, or in general what you thought of the video, in the comments section down below. There will be more heading this way very soon. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, I'll see you next time.